Hi Geoff, how you going?
Fine.
Good
And
stuff.
you get one return syllables now behind camera. Yeah.
That's it. So we've just actually been talking for probably about an hour or so, and we've decided that we'll turn the camera on and ask some questions and chew the fat on some different things. So first of all, Geoff, you're here in Stoke Rochford, here in middle of England. How long have you been here?
Well, I've always kind of tried to keep in Lincolnshire, which is my county of birth, you know, so everybody say, you know, if you leave Lincolnshire, you never go back, you know, so... No, I've been there about 18 years and not moved very far. I've only moved about, if you like, about 15 miles, so it's not like Australia where you have to go across the country of thousands of miles to move, you know. So, no, we like it here. We're quite well centralised because you've got the main A1, which is up and down, to Scotland to London.
Yeah, I had to cross the A1.
Yeah,
so
well,
I had
sorry about that.
Okay, so we're just not far from Geoff's place. Unfortunately, I went the wrong way, so I've got to cross the A1, which looks like this could be a little bit of fun, seeing as the traffic is just continuous coming from my right. I see a police chopper up there actually. Looks like they're checking the speed of people. If they could all suddenly stop so I could get across the other side of the road, that would be absolutely awesome. But at the moment it looks like it's going to take a while to cross.
And then you've got a train from Grantham to London, it's only an hour. You've got an airport 45 minutes away.
So you're well situated.
You can go anywhere in the world. You've got a golf course just across the way as well. I don't play golf.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty central.
Oh, good stuff. So you're born in Lincolnshire. At an early age you were obviously quite strong.
Yeah, I was relatively strong compared to, you know, a lot of the kids. I was a bit of a tough nut, you know, when I was a kid. And ironically, I used to look at comic strip heroes. We used to have the Hotspur and the Wizard in my day. And there used to be a guy called Wilson the Wonder Athlete in there, Morgan the Mighty, and Alf Tupp at the top of the track.
Okay.
And they used to lift rocks and stones and all sorts of things. And I used to emulate them in part of my early days of training.
Yeah.
I would fight anybody, that's the other thing. And yeah, I was a pretty strong kid really, and very strong for my early age, if you like.
And so you were taken under the wing of Stuart Story, who was a top athlete. How did that change?
Well, Stuart, you know, came from the same village as I did, and he was a hurdler, but an international athlete. But I belonged to the same club, Holbeach Athletics Club, and I just kind of followed Stuart around and carried his spikes. Because I started very early on in my career, you know, I was training when I was 9 years old.
Yeah, wow.
And I found out I was very fast, very agile. I could run, jump, throw, you name it.
Well, I'll just pull up on a Wikipedia fact here, and we know that Wikipedia is sometimes completely made up. But it said on there that you could run 200 metres in 23 seconds.
I did 23 seconds when I was 23 and a half stone.
Wow.
And that was against Brendan Foster.
Okay, wow.
One of the top runners in UK. I did it in Spalding and I did it in Gateshead at the international match.
Wow, that's something, that weight.
And I ran a 57.3 at the same weight as well, at 400 metres.
Wow.
But I did about 11.3 yards as well, but a 4.940 at 23 and a half stone.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I was very explosive. But I put it down to my early kind of career when I used to play football, basketball, athletics, gymnastics, you name it, I used to do everything.
So a good question I have here is that nowadays a lot of athletes get into team sports like rugby, and we've been talking about that. So why didn't you get involved in rugby? Why did you go down that athletics route?
Well, I think the first thing, our school wasn't a rugby school. They tended to only play rugby at the posh schools, such as grammar schools and fee paying schools. If you go up to Doncaster, north of Doncaster, it's rugby league.
Yep, that's very true.
And then once you come a little bit further south, it's rugby union.
Yep.
And unless you went to the right school, you never played rugby, you played soccer, football. So I played football and did other sports, cricket, basketball. And that's why, you know, I probably didn't go into rugby, and not that I couldn't play it. You know, I bet I could play it because I used to adapt very quickly. And like my grandsons, just signed youth terms for Leicester Tigers. My son played rugby, England Colts, Somerset, and then played American football in America. So we have kind of, if you like, ball skills on the side, and you know, if you could run and if you could catch, you could play any sport really.
Absolutely. And so you're the most capped British athlete, I believe.
Well, the thing is, it's debatable because I had 67 internationals for Great Britain. Yeah. I had 35 internationals for England. Yeah. And then I competed for Europe, the rest of the world, in athletics as well. And then if you keep on top of that and say, well, I represented Great Britain in strongman, I represented Great Britain in Highland Games. I don't even count those because there's another 60, 70 internationals that end. But in athletics alone, I was well into the 100, 150.
And what was your best performance in athletics? What's the performance which means the most to you?
Well, in athletics, I suppose, you know, the shot, really. I did 21 metres 68, Commonwealth record, European record.
What year was that?
1980.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I did a warm-up throw in European indoor, 22:30.
Wow.
Which wasn't recorded. It was only measured as a training throw. So athletics, shot put was my thing, if you like. But I also did a lot of other things as well. You know, I was very. It was very easy for me to transfer. Yeah. You know, from one sport to another. You know, I mean, I could have been an international weightlifter. Yeah. I could have done something else. You know, I was a good boxer. Yeah. I was a black belt in judo and aikido. Yeah. You know, it was just something that I did. Most of my fitness training was doing judo groundwork. Yeah. That's one of the toughest fitness areas that you can get into. But I also learned the sport as well. Yeah. No. So I suppose in a way I got into athletics and I got into shot put by mistake, just because it was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you went from shot put, where you had amazing success, and then you got into the world of strongman. What was it like going to your first strongman competition? How did that come about?
Well, I think I started in the Highland Games first. Okay. You know, which is again very very much a throwing skill, but a lot heavier equipment. You know, and then the strongman. I started looking at a few TV events, and then all of a sudden I knew a couple of guys that did strongman, and I watched the World's Strongest Man once. It was 8 Americans, nobody else. Yeah. And I thought, oh, I reckon we can do that. So they did a Britain's Strongest Man, where they used to pick from different sports, powerlifting, weightlifting, athletics and wrestling. And I won that first one, and then I went to the European Championships to compete against the rest of Europe, and I won that, and then I represented Europe and Great Britain in the World Championships. And the first one I did was in the Playboy Club in Great Gorge, New Jersey.
Okay, yep.
And I think I come second or third. I'm not sure. Because, you know, we're talking in the 80s now, it's now 2000.
So 1980 you came third, I can
Third,
see.
okay, I wasn't far off then, was I? And that's when I first met Bill Kazmai in the world of strongman. And Bill obviously was one of the icons of the time. Yeah. And Bill used to call himself obviously the world's strongest man, the strongest man that ever lived. And he was asked the question about me, and he says, no, there's a lot of stronger athletes than Geoff. Sorry, strongman. He says, but he's the strongest athlete I've ever seen. And that was a compliment in itself, because I could run with weight, throw weight, you know, pull weight quicker than anybody. Yeah. You know?
Well, let's just look. So in the 80s, when you competed in the World's Strongest Man, So you came third in 1980, second in 1981, 1982 you were fourth, 1983 was your first win, 1984 third, 1985 you got your second win, and 1986 you came second. So you were right at the top for all those years.
Yeah, the thing is that I never just trained for strongman, because, you know, although I had a career in the police force, I retired in 1980.
Yeah.
And then I was running a major national security company on top of that afterwards. So I was free to do most things, but I was doing the Highland Games outside of strongman.
Yeah.
And that itself is like 7 disciplines on an afternoon, twice a week, you know. And I used to do what we call a 27-week tour. Yeah. And not only that, during the week I used to do superstars, run superstars at the holiday camps. So my tour.
So what did superstars involve for those people who don't know?
Superstars is where you do different sports, if you like, running, cycling, canoeing, shooting, weightlifting. It was a combination of everything. And
is that like Brian Jack's Superstars?
Yeah, Brian Jack's, and Brian Hooper and David Henry, all the great athletes from different sports competing. But Butlins camps, I used to run one for them. So I did a Highland Games on a Saturday, a Highland Games on a Sunday in Scotland, and I did a Superstars on a Monday in Ayr, Superstars on a Tuesday in Pwllheli in Wales, Superstars on a Wednesday in Bognor down in the south of England, and on a Thursday I was in Skegness doing Superstars, and on Friday I used to go back home, get new kit, and then drive back to Scotland for a Saturday and a Sunday. And I did that every week for 27 weeks. And that was my summer. And in between, they used to throw in a strongman. So I never really got to train properly to do a strongman. Sometimes I had a 3-week window, 4-week window. And because I was throwing all the time, obviously I was very fit all the time and very athletic and very mobile, but I wasn't strong enough. So I used to say in 6 weeks I could go from a 300-pound bench press to a 600-pound bench press, you know, and in 3 weeks I could adapt that quickly.
How would you do that?
Just had this, you know, kind of, if you like, attitude of, I don't know, ability of transference, of adaptability. Yeah. And it was just something that happened, you know. I was always considered as a freak of nature anyway. And but I think having this kind of background of natural ability, of natural strength, coming from a background of farming and, you know, and actually, lifting heavy weights.
You say that the second Wikipedia fact said that you can move 20 tons of potatoes in 20
minutes. Yeah. And how I did that, we put an elevator through and we had pallets loaded with the potatoes and 5 men on the lorry. Yeah. And I used to work, you know, like this, and I could keep 5 men going and I'm 1 man loading. Wow. And I used that as part of my training.
Okay, yeah.
Everything I did on the farm and everything, I used to adapt into a kind of a training model, training thing. When I used to pull the lorries, I never pulled a lorry in training.
Okay.
I always pulled an old Land Rover on a couple of notches on the handbrake.
Yeah.
And then I used to put a harness around a tree and create angles and work at the correct angle of pulling. Okay. So if you look in the earlier days of strongman, I used to win all the truck pulls.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, that was
and then people started copying me. You see, so it got closer and closer. But my biggest, if you like, my best pull for a 12.5 ton truck, 25 metres in 17.8 seconds.
Yeah, that's moving.
You know, and I was very rarely beaten in truck pull. And anything moving, an object, such as sledge racing and on ice, and I could move so quickly. Yeah. But that was part of my normal training program. Yeah. No. And I just used I could adapt it to do strongman.
So you just said sledge racing there. What other strange events have you done in strongman competitions?
Well, bar bend is another one.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is going back to the original. You know, the if you like, the Victorian strongman, barbell lifting and bending bars and all that sort of stuff. And obviously it's adapted today. I mean, they drop events that tend to injure people more. You know, they used to get injured a lot doing that sort of stuff. But I don't like the way they've done strongman today, where it's mechanised.
Yeah.
It's precision made equipment. Deadlift with straps. I never ever liked straps.
No, okay, that's interesting.
I don't. Well, if you can't hold on to it, you can't lift it.
Yeah.
You've got to be tied onto it to lift it. That's not lifting it. Something else is lifting it. In other words, the straps are really lifting the weight because your grip can't hold on to it.
Stepping on your grip, yeah.
So therefore, it's a falsehood. You know, in Olympics and powerlifting, per se, competitive Olympic lifting and powerlifting, you're not allowed to wear straps.
Yeah.
So why does strongman wear straps? If you're strongman, you shouldn't have to wear straps.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a multitude of events. You know, every year there's always something. Fridge carrying, freezer carrying. You know, sledge racing and log carry, farmers walk, the balls. You know, the mantled stones or McGlashan stones or whatever stones they wanted to carry.
How did you practice the stone lifting?
Never did.
No, so you just rocked up and...
I did.
Yeah.
There was always... the only weak event for me was horizontal holds, you know, because I had such a long wingspan. And over the years of throwing, I had a lot of kind of damage in my shoulders, you know, hyperextensions and throwing. So my ligaments were a bit weak. But again, I could hold my own, so to speak, you know.
So what advice would you give to your young self? From now, everything you've learned, if you were to tell your young self some wisdom, what would it be?
Well, for starting, nowadays we didn't have people like physios, doctors, and nutritionalists and all this sort of stuff. You just went, you know, and did your own thing, you know, trial by error.
Yeah.
But I would think more today. Get more help with the injuries earlier on. Yeah. If I got injured, it was so what, you know, just carried on. Where today you get medical treatment, you get surgery very quickly.
I think
I'm now paying for stuff that I didn't sort out when I was injured at the time.
Yeah.
You know, that was one thing. I think that's an important thing. Today they train for strongman.
Yeah.
I never did.
No.
Because strongman to me was only a vehicle.
Yeah.
It was another event at the time that I did earn money from. Yeah. But I also did at the same time Highland Games throughout the world. Strongman was only a small part of my whole athletics career as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, when you think Highland Games, to me, there was only 2 or 3, 4 strongman shows a year. Yeah. I could do 60 Highland Games.
Yeah, wow. It's the other way around now almost.
You know, but there's more people injured today in strongman. There's still no recourse. No. There's still no. You've got to sign your life away. You've got to do it under your own auspices. You know, people can get really damaged. Yeah. I know people that's died in strongman. I know people that's died in training to do strongman. Yeah. I think, you know, it's given another page to somebody, a gym monkey, that would just train in a gym and be big and strong in a gym. Yeah. It's given him something to do outside of the gym environment. And, you know, okay, fine. If that's what they want to do with their lives, that's great. Yeah. Then let them do it. Yeah. But I think, you know, for the people like the TV productions the people that own the events and stuff like that, they're getting mega money, and the athletes are not getting enough money to protect themselves and lives.
Yeah, very true.
You know, because there's a long life after strongman.
That's very true. Yeah.
You know,
I had that conversation with a few athletes.
You know, even athletics. So,
yeah.
You know, when you think I've given my whole life to sport, and I'm 70 next year.
Yeah, wow.
And you know, I started when I was 9 years old, and where people are earning $1 million and more a year, I never earned a penny in athletics.
And I know we were talking about this before. You've coached a lot of people in
Coached a lot of international athletes as well.
Yeah, and that's in your own time, with your own back.
No funding, no nothing.
Yeah, no. That's
I run a youth academy of throwers. I don't take any finance. It's actually run to kind of perpetuate training, encouragement, coaching coaches, giving opportunities to kids at the clubs, youth at the grassroots level that just doesn't get any help, you know.
So you're almost 70, so what's your goal for the next 10 years? Do you have any specific goals?
I think the goal is try and live as long as I can now.
That's a good one.
I'm going to try and win the Budgie World Championship, so the actual top bird in the show, not the variety, because I've won.
So you were the British Budgerigar president, is that right?
Yes, I was, yeah. But when you think, you know, it's an Australian bird, parakeet, Australian grass parakeet. I always say it's Melopsittacus undulatus.
That's it.
And I'll never forget that, because it was an exam question. And I just enjoy the opposite, being something that is opposite to aggression and strength and everything else, but still very competitive. I've coached a couple of girls to the top. I've coached a couple of lads to the top. I'd like to find somebody that is still capable of going all the way. But you see, in coaching, it's like strongman. You've got to have somebody that is capable of going the whole way. It's not good just to coach anybody. To me, I still coach anybody, whether they're good or bad. But to find somebody that is capable of winning the World Championships, being a great thrower or whatever, you've got to have the right tool for the job in the start. You've got to have somebody in shot putting, as far as I'm concerned, doing the linear movement, 6'7", 6'8", 22, 23 stone. But where are they? They're either in strongman or rugby or doing something else. All the big tall women are in netball or rowing, you know, and all of what I call the natural big tall rangy guys tend to do other sports first. A, there's either more funding in that sport, or B, it's professional. Unless you're good and brilliant in athletics, you don't earn anything. So, you know, I think a lot of it today, a lot of people do it for the wrong reasons and expect to earn a living from it. You know, you get a lot of these strongman guys, and there's a load of them now. There's a load of competitors. Polo, quiet. That's my dog. And they think they're gonna earn a living out of it. They ain't. You've got to be the top dog to earn a living. You know.
I think Polo thinks he's the top dog.
Well, Polo is a bloody top dog at the moment. I think it's the time for the postman.
Polo's quite a big dog, let's say. The postman should run pretty fast.
Yeah, he can run and all. Yeah. So I don't know. I just keep coaching as long as I can. Try and encourage people, you know, in the sport. I mean, I've got a right strange mix of guys I train at the gym. I've got powerlifters, I've got strongmen, I've got shotputters, I've got American football players, I've got rugby players, you know what I mean? And so I kind of crossed over, because most of my programs are very generic, and it's all related to power movement. So it fits a lot of categories of sportsmen.